For a little bit. It wasn't that hard. Lime actually helps.
Yeah, I'm recording you now.
Okay. All right, so lime and salt, back to that. It's going to reset your circadian rhythm. It's going to make you want to wake up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time that's natural for you. And so, full lime, it doesn't matter what kind of lime. When it comes to the fruits like this, I believe in supporting an organic brand. You don't need to if the budget's not there. You can buy normal because the thickness of the skin around the fruit actually protects it from all that crap. Granted, it's might be still GMO. You could die. I'm just kidding. But anyway, so full lime or half a lemon, which because lemons are bigger, obviously. Quarter teaspoon of colored salt, gray, Himalayan, real salt, sea salt, any of that. A little bit of water, 2 ounces, preferably filtered. If you don't have a filter, it's a good investment. And then stir that around, shot that, and then chase it with 24 to 36 ounces of water. Okay, so that's all you need to do. And after that, we move into breakfast. Now, breakfast is going to be optimal if you do protein and fats. If you're under a certain amount of body fat percentage, it changes a little bit. Because like ectomorphs, they can pedal through carbs a lot more than an endomorph can. And so it's not necessarily this is going to be the best for you, everybody, but unless you're a freak of nature, which is probably like 1 to 10, 20% at the very most, is going to be that person who can eat carbs all day and like, Joe Donnelly, he's never going to get fat at all and he can eat 1,000 carbs. And what I actually learned today was that people can still be carb resistant even if they're shredded. They just don't have fat cells to deposit in. And so in a sense, their body takes in the carbs and starts getting inflammation. And so that's why they look lean but a little puffy, and then when they try to get on stage, it doesn't. You guys know that? Pretty crazy. I didn't either. That's what you learn when you learn from Ben. But so when it comes down to that, if you're a little bit, if you're the normal person, if I can tell by everyone in here, no one's a freak of nature. Okay, so like, y'all aren't gonna freaking lift weights for 3 months and step on stage. Like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, these are the freak of natures we're talking about. Jay's even more endomorphic, so he has some problem with losing fat compared to someone who sits around at 6%. But again, so like, what do we want to do during a hypertrophy workout? We want to create inflammation, right? So we're going to maybe want carbs during, before, and after because they do create more inflammation. They're pro-inflammatory, and so they will help create the inflammation. What if you're doing any athletic endeavor, like any explosive deadlifts, power cleans, anything like that, keep it completely out of your system. You can start drinking carbs about halfway in and continue because it won't have that dramatic effect as long as it's carb powder, it'll be okay. But at the same time, you don't want to create a huge pump in that kind of environment for anything you're doing explosively. Which MI40 is nothing that way, so at the same time, we're going to have to find out what it is. From what I can tell, everyone would probably benefit from not doing carbs before the workout. And also, not much throughout the day. Okay, so starting your morning, going back to that, meat, nuts, fats. Like nuts or fats, so meat, protein, fats, that's all we want. Like carbs will actually spike serotonin. Most of the people will feel sluggish within 2 to 3 hours, feel like a nap, very unproductive, and that's pretty much all of America. So if you switch over, my favorite thing is coffee. I use the Bulletproof brand because I do believe that's the best brand I can get my hands on, and I don't get paid to say that, and I tell a lot of people to get it, and I haven't had anybody say, oh yeah, it's been worse. And so I do get that brand. I believe quality is a huge difference. Starbucks is so bad for you at every level. Like, it's just the coffee. And so if you end up going that way, you add fat to it. So butter, but it has to be grass-fed from grass. Kerrygold is one. Organic Valley is another. Okay, those are the two that I know that are good to go. And then they'll say it. Pasture-raised is one to look for. Organic doesn't necessarily mean anything anymore, and neither does gluten-free. It's all been abused. Like, even it says gluten-free and organic, it's still pretty crappy for you if it has a lot of sugar and it's chocolate and candy and nothing but that. So don't get caught up in that fad. Just look for high-quality ingredients where you can actually pronounce things on the back of the label. And yeah, so if you're not going to do coffee, if you're not a coffee drinker, tea works, stuff like that. Like, some people like to eat right away whole foods anyway, first thing in the morning. And if that's you, then don't. Because you really don't want to have to create that regimen and create that stress, because you creating stress around a meal is worse than eating that meal. And yeah.
How much is too much coffee?
That's by feel. 1 to 2 cups is like, you should be good on that. If you're not feeling good off 1 to 2 cups, then you really gotta get.
I feel awesome. That's why I want one.
Yeah. So probably not more.
Do you do it with the butter and the
I used to put coconut oil. I still like my sugar, so I'll put a little bit of sugar in it.
So do you like stevia? Have you tried like the English
it's not my
coffee
favorite.
stevia?
It's okay. It's not my favorite.
So honey.
honey's okay too.
Okay.
It's not, I still like sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to tone it down, but
Oh, do you have like muscle egg or like protein?
yeah.
So if you get like a good taste of protein or muscle egg, you can just throw half a scoop of that in there, and I prefer that, or half a cup of muscle egg, and there's your sugar. I would,
That's my third cup. That's my third cup. My first two, I'm kind of dumbing it down. And at 10 o'clock, I go for a third cup that has protein in it.
yeah. So I would just do 1 cup, do all your fats and proteins, and that should be good. And if you need more than that, then we have to really look at your diet and pick that apart and get you rolling. Because like, I take 1 cup of coffee, I'm literally good till 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and I'm not exaggerating. This is I'm money. I eat before sometimes, and I'll eat after, but I'm feeling great. And so it could just be a problem with your adrenals, your body fat levels and whatnot. That all affects how caffeine affects you. You see what I'm saying? So it'd be really good to dial that down and really try to make it 1 cup that's power packed. And then that, can last me hunger-wise till 1 or 2, 3 o'clock, which the whole stigmata of eat 6 meals a day is just dumb. I mean, for the protein turnover, if you're an athlete that's training twice a day, then yeah, 4 or 5 meals is probably a good idea. If you're a really big guy, and you got to eat 6,000 calories, 2,000 calorie meals might be a little too heavy for your digestion, and so splitting them up into more meals is therefore appropriate. Does that make sense? So and I think that's where a lot of people get confused, because everyone's like, oh, why do bodybuilders have big guts? It's a combination of everything, of especially like the ones that develop big guts eat a ton. And so those digestive muscles are always contracting, so they're always doing work, so it's getting bigger and bigger, and they're creating hypertrophy because they're eating all the time. And then you add in, boosters and some super supplements to that, it compounds on the problem. Does that make sense? Cool. Yeah, so breakfast, meat and nuts is another way to go. So classic way, bacon and eggs with butter and coconut oil, cooked in that. Throw some mushrooms, some veggies in there if you're a big fruit person, and that really helps you feel better in the day, and judge it. Don't say I want fruit because it's sweet and I love it first thing in the morning. Say, okay, I'm gonna eat some fruit, refill some liver glycogen, especially if I had a hard workout the day before, and then bump into the day. And if it helps me feel better, I'm gonna keep doing that. But in the sense, if it doesn't, or I don't see a difference, then I'm not, because it's not optimal. Okay, so it is by feel, and there's a million different ways to do breakfast. You can do liquid, you can do solids. Like a good solid breakfast is, what do you eat right now?
6 whole eggs, 1 avocado, and like 2 pieces of bacon.
Bam! See what I'm saying? That's a lot of fat, right? So 6 eggs, 1 avocado, 2 pieces of bacon. That's perfect. Like if you want to go with bison and bacon and avocado and coconut oil, bam, there's another one. Walnuts, cashews, no peanuts, they're not they're legume. Anything like that thrown into the beef, thrown into the eggs, that's going to help too. It's going to help 2 neurotransmitters. Like red meat actually bumps up acetylcholine. So it's cool if you want steak and eggs, is a really great option. And pork, if it's a good source, is really good for that too. And then you have different proteins that are going to bump up dopamine, and concentration and drive and focus are your biggest traits in the morning at that point. Does that make sense? Instead of serotonin with sleep and relaxation, focus, drive, concentration, a little bit of energy bump. That's your concentration in the morning. Now, it depends if what you're going to do. If you're going to work out first thing in the morning, then again, play with it. If you do, I like to do coffee before I work out. This is great. I don't work out for 2 hours after I do my coffee. I do a pre-workout, depending on what it's going to be. It's usually neurotropics for athletics, and then pump type workout if it's hypertrophy. And then I won't have carbs at all until night if I'm going to have them. And so I'll do like a post-workout shake with protein and MCT source, so like full-fat coconut milk, which technically now you have a full-on shake that's creamy, which can't be beat. Or you can do like MCT oil or coconut oil, for a matter of fact. So I don't like to have my insulin spiked that high with carbs as well, first thing, because I believe it limits the flexibility that you have to handle carbs later in the evening. Because as your cortisol goes down and everything kind of settles down for night, you're actually ready to have an insulin spike. So a little bit of carbs, 50, 100 grams, it's not really going to do anything but good for you at that point. And that's also dependent on your workout. If it was a bicep workout, maybe 30 grams. If it was a back and bicep and hamstrings, probably looking at like maybe 100, 150. And that's at the high end. You don't need a lot. Does it make sense?
You saying protein or carbs?
Carbs. Yeah, protein is just going to be there, especially